Hey, how are you? My name is Margaret Wong, and I'm here to talk about Valentine's Day and immigrant visas or K-1 visas relating to Valentine's.
All right, Ms. Wong. So today, for all our lovers out there, we have a few questions regarding fiancé visas and also about marriage cases. So, what exactly is a fiancé visa?
K visa is a fiancé visa. As I said last time, anytime you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, that's a non-immigrant visa. So marriage cases, you can come to America as an immigrant or non-immigrant visa. The non-immigrant is a fiancé. The form you use is the I-129F. It's not K, it's F form. So I-129F. You have to meet each other within the past 2 years. So for example, in a lot of countries where I couldn't go back or I didn't want to go back, and I never met that girl or boy for more than the last 2 years. I only met them when I was a child 10 years ago. You cannot do a fiancé visa.
So, the next question is, what do I need in order to qualify?
The petitioner, as I said earlier, anytime you do a visa, you always need the petitioner and the respondent, or the petitioner and the alien, or the petitioner and the beneficiary. In this case, the petitioner has to be a U.S. citizen. He or she could not be a green card holder. Another thing about the K-1 visa is that you have to be eligible to marry. So if I'm a citizen, if I were married, I need to get a divorce before I file for a fiancé to come to America. And during the interview of the fiancé in the foreign country, they will double check how many times were you married and how many times were you divorced. Another thing about K visa is the beneficiary also has to be eligible to marry. So for example, I'm from Ireland or I'm from Philippines. In that part of the world, because of the heavy Catholic faith, we're not allowed to divorce until a few years ago. So years ago, when we bring people from that part of the world, we always ask, were you ever married? Were you ever divorced? Because in the early days, they do not like premarital women having babies. So they'll run to a village, get married, thinking people don't know, and now they have a child who has a father. But those old days are gone. Now you have to get a divorce before you can marry a USC husband or wife. Also, that applies to a lot of Muslim faith countries, because in some parts of the world, some people are allowed to marry 2 or 3 times or more than 1 times. So that's another problem, because if immigration asks you how many times were you married and then how many times were you divorced, if they see you are married to this woman or this man and this woman and this man and not having divorced, they will deny that K visa.
So, the next question is, how long does the process for this fiancé visa take? And how long do I have to wait until I get to see my partner?
That's a very important question. It's all about love. I always tell people immigration has nothing to do with love. It's always about the paperwork, the processing. So the K-1 process takes anywhere between, under the earlier administration, sometimes it takes only 2-3 weeks to about 6-7 months. Nowadays, a K visa takes about 6 months to 9 months. But that's only the first step. Then the second step, the paperwork, the approval of the K-1 visa goes to the American embassy. So for example, you're coming in from Mexico, from Central America, from Venezuela. It takes about 2 or 3 months for them to organize an interview. And then another 1 or 2 months, the alien have to go in for the interview for the fiancé visa. The most important thing is not the filing of the paperwork. Any high school kid can file an I-129, an F1, the name of the petitioner, the dates of divorces, the name of the new person I want to marry. But the most important thing is that interview, what happened at that K-1 visa interview in the American embassy overseas. Because a lot of times, me being a U.S. citizen, I can bring someone with 3 children as long as the kids are under 21. But if you marry the wife or the husband before the kids were 18, you can also apply for the green card. So the age is very important and different.
Okay. Now, is this for the K-1 visa or is this for marriage case?
Actually, for both. K-1, K-3 K-2 could come to America as long as they're under 21 years old. But for marriage, the child cannot come to America unless the marriage took place before 18. That reminded me of a case that I personally have processed. The kid will be 21 pretty soon. So we called and we faxed and we emailed the American Embassy in Philippines to make sure the kid could be approved the visa and enter America right before his 21st birthday. Age of children on this topic is very important. The definition of the age is 16, 18, 21. Under 16, you have to do an adoption. Under 18, you have to marry the mother or the father before the kid can get a green card. Or ward of court or dependency action. You have to make sure they got the ward of court or dependency action final disposition before they can get the 360 and the green card under 21. Under 21 means the kid emancipated. Any kid under 21 could immigrate with their parents. So in short, to answer your question, when can I see my partner as soon as possible? I could probably see him or her between after 7 months to 1.5 years, depends on what country they're coming from.
So the next question is, after this whole process is over with, can I get my partner a green card? And how long does this process
Absolutely. Take? Once the K-1 visa is approved from overseas, he or she and his or her children could come to America. The law on K-1 is that you have to marry each other within 90 days. And how do I get married? I have to go to the normal court, not immigration court, file for the license and get married. And then within 90 days, you have to get married and file for the green card. The green card depends. Ohio, Cleveland was just voted the fastest city. So in Cleveland, you can get a green card 2.5 months to 4 to 5 months. In New York now, it's taking about 1.5 years. So on the other hand, I don't want our listeners to think things are that simple. If things are that simple, really the law won't exist. K-1 is a very, very interesting history and story. There was a time that when you file the paperwork, you don't need pictures of the citizen. You may or may not need the picture of the beneficiary. And then people get smart. So when they go for the interview, they'll get another man or woman. Or when they go get married here, they'll get another man or woman. Or they go to the interview, even the alien will send another girl in there or boy in there for the interview because there was no pictures. So now immigration requires when you file the K visa and the marriage case, the petitioner have to put passport pictures and the alien have to put passport pictures. In fact, we have a case like this now. The alien was picked up and went to jail, and they called our law firm to bring her out of jail. In the meantime, we found out she has been married to a citizen for 9 years. So I thought, why couldn't she get a green card? So we visited her in jail, and then we did a FOIA for the cases to come in. It turned out she told us the husband never filed. It turned out she went to the interview. There were paperwork to show she signed the paper. Of course, I believe in my clients. So we are requesting the tapes and a signature to make sure the husband did not bring another girl in to get that girl the green card instead of my client. So we're at that stage now. And that's what makes me thinking. The more fraud we do, the more the government is like reaction. We do more bad stuff. They clamp it down. We do much. So both parties are not too happy.
So here's the scenario. Let's say I went and I married my partner in Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, etc. And so the question is, if I am already married, what can I do to bring my spouse here from their home country?
As I said earlier, there are 2 ways to bring your loved one this Valentine's Day. to bring him or her here. One way to do it is a K-1 visa, fiancé. But now if you married her, she's no longer your fiancé, so she's your spouse or he's your spouse. So now we have to do the I-130, which we will discuss later, and do the immigrant visa interview and bring him or her to America. The whole process would take about 9 months to 1.5 years.
Can you tell us a little bit about what this interview will be like for I-130? What can we do to prepare, and what are some of the questions that they ask?
That's a very interesting issue because of the high level of fraud, not from all countries, but there is a lot of fraud in marriage cases because in reality, that is also an easier way to come to America. I always tell my clients, when you go in the meeting room, relax. It's okay. Don't fidget your fingers. Don't twist your fingers. Don't hide your hand. So the whole thing about marriage cases, the intent has to be pure. At time of entering the marriage, the whole thing is we love each other. We're not doing this just for papers or for green card. You always have to bring your spouse in the meeting. I always tell them, especially in winter, you have your winter coats, you have your file, you have your passport, you have the amended medical records. Relax. Always get a cup of coffee. Bring your loved one 4 days before the interview, 3 days before the interview to a candlelight dinner. Go through, don't expect to remember all the answers. Go through, when did we meet each other? How did we meet each other? It is in the internet. Is it through a brokerage? Brokerage is a problem. I'll explain later. So how did you meet? When's the first time? Not so much you sleep together. They're not that explicit, especially with a good law firm. But they do know these offices every minute of the day. From 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes nowadays they interview on Saturday and Sunday because they want to push cases. To 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's all they talk about. So they get a feel of what kind of situation this is. Small things like when you go into the room, instead of putting everything down with a translator, you stand, because the first thing they're going to ask you is to swear that you tell the truth and nothing but the whole truth. The room is also very, very small. Sometimes we are lucky we have a window. Sometimes you don't have a window because the officers work in very crammed offices. And be considerate of those officers. And normally the officers will look at a file. Sometimes, most of the time, they don't even have time. It's just like all of our jobs. The bosses yell at them, the supervisor comes in late, and the officer, they have children at home, they couldn't find a babysitter. But most immigration files, you open the file like this, but the holes are like this, not like this. So the officer would check, and you have to look at the officer and look them in the eye, because a lot of culture, we sort of humble, so we look on the floor, but the officer would think we're hiding something. And also, don't talk too much. And I'm not saying don't talk. Keep it very calm, because when you are nervous, negative energy goes to the officer and they're thinking, what's wrong with this person? In fact, we want a green card. That's why we're nervous. The next thing is be considerate. If you have, the officer always asks, can I have your passport, your ID, or your maybe work permits and the tax return? Like, you don't just put it here. You give it to the officer like this, but don't push it to him or her. You put it here so he can just look at it instead of turning around. So I always tell my clients, give it to the officer, or the lawyer would give it to the officer with your ID in the middle. Your passport is there, but you should look at your passport. If there's any phony stamps in there, you should be honest about it. If you forgot your wife's birthday, which I happen to forget my husband's birthday, that's okay. Just say, oops, I'm so nervous, I forgot. Just say that. Don't come in and say, when you are nervous, do you forgot your wife's birthday? That's embarrassing. Don't question the officer. Come in and say yes, no, and the answer. And also I personally like to meet the spouse before I bring them into the interview. And because they're American citizen, they're not used to this like in a small room, interrogation with a camera. It's confusing when there's a camera there and the officers are typing, they may not even look at you. And also dress nice. Little things like your husband, please don't wear earrings. I see some men or women wearing these crazy hair, even this is an interview. Be nice, wear professional stuff. We need my green card from them. Just be respectful.
Can my partner apply for the green card?
Absolutely. Of course, you can apply for the green card. There are two ways to apply for the green card, as I said. I always think parallel tracks in immigration. One way is the IV process. You pay the $120 and the $325 and come from overseas. Then the interview takes place in the American embassy or consulate. Another way to do it, which I guess is more this question, is adjustment of status. So if I came on a tourist visa, I'm an overstay. And now I'm married an American citizen. Definitely I can apply for green card in America, what we call AOS. Adjustment of status is called a 485 interview.
So the next question is, how does all these laws, how does it affect same-sex marriage? How long does the process take and all? Is it the same for the K-1 visa and
Absolutely.
for matrimony?
Now, same-sex marriage is the same as different sex marriage. So it's the same process. You file the I-130, you do the adjustment of status. You file the I-130, you do the IV process. You file the K visa, and then it doesn't matter if that country recognizes it, as long as America recognizes it, we can do it.
So next question is, if I am currently engaged, should I do a fiancé visa or a marriage-based green card case?
That depends. There's a new thing that says if you're here on a tourist visa, you could not change your mind within 90 days. So if you do marriage case, I would not marry within 90 days. But if you came on a K visa, you have to marry within 90 days and file the green card.
Thank you for watching our video here with attorney Margaret Wong. My name is Stephanie Ayala. We hope you enjoyed today's topic. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave any questions or comments down below that we can potentially use for future videos. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For more information about our law firm, check out our website at iamwong.com and feel free to schedule a consultation at 216-566-9908. Thank you.